Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. No, thank God it's Monday because Mondays suck usually. And it sucks right now, Russ, because it's the middle of August and I like the temperature. It's in the mid 60s, which, that's not
60s. It's 83
yeah, mid
here.
60s. It's mid 60s and it's been raining the last 4 days. So I don't know if this is like a hurricane hangover or something. But
from Ernesto, that's what you're getting.
Holy moly. It's just like,
we're not getting it anymore. Yeah, we're over that.
Yeah, but we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So, interesting thing in college baseball. College sports right now has become the wild, wild west. And so lately, with the NILs and everything, it's gotten interesting. Well, University of Texas needed a coach. They lost their baseball coach. And they found a baseball coach at Texas A&M, Jim Schlossnagle. Now, you got to remember, these Texas teams hate each other. Right. I know by going to Houston, they hated all the other Texas teams. Right. But not only did they get the coach, they got the catcher who was supposed to go to Texas A&M is now going to UT as well. So they got the star catcher that they desperately needed. Man, I'm just saying, this kind of stuff is just crazy. And this is big time rivalry stuff.
What is this? Peter Chiarelli taking the Zdeno Chara? Oh, wait, excuse me. So no, yeah. not really.
So I don't know how much money this cost. I don't know what it took to make this happen, but this is quite a turnaround. And and now they've got UT as a star catcher. So
what was it? I think his name was. You have to realize, folks, I dislike college football vehemently. I don't follow it. The only time I follow college football is at the NFL draft when I learn about all the players that get drafted. So I really don't care that much about college football, but a lot of people do. I think his name was Jimbo Fisher, who was a coach with Florida State, and then I think he was Texas A&M So he was so bad that they had to buy him out of the last couple of years of his contract. And it was like something like $55 million. And, so that is all the boosters basically had to pony up $55 million to pay off this loser. So, it's like, college football is big money.
It's big money, man.
And the thing is, and we'll start the show after this. The thing is that now you're seeing it not only in college football, but in college basketball and college baseball and college hockey. I know some of these prospects using like the NIL, if they're not getting playing time, Fusco, the Maple Leaf draft pick, 7th round pick, he wasn't getting playing time at Harvard. So he went to Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. He just said, okay, I'm going to Dartmouth. And, it's not like it used to be where if you transferred colleges, you had to sit out a year. Now you can go right away. And it's like college hopping. The kid that the Bills drafted in the second round, he played 2 years or 2 or 3 years at Florida State or Michigan State, and then he went to Florida State. So it's like, this is the new normal, folks. They're hopping around more than players in the pros are hopping around.
Yeah, I do write about a little bit of college football for Go GTS, and then I've done some trading cards, and I did his trading card for the Bills. And you have to keep track of every place now that a player's played in college, where it used to be easy. It used to be like, hey, he's at Georgia for, 3 years. No, now he's at Georgia for a year and he goes another 2 somewhere else. Some have switched 3 times to school. Yeah. So
And we'll talk about it more on a future show, but I do know that there is a lawsuit pending from a player, a Canadian junior player. And I think it's against the NCAA. And if it does pan out the right way, then it's going to change the landscape of.
It's about eligibility, not being eligible.
Right. So, like, remember, if a college player like Jeremy Bracco went to Boston College, then he transferred to the OHL. I think it was Mississauga, maybe. I don't remember exactly where. Somebody in the chat probably would know. But the Leafs had to sign him because his eligibility, he could have stayed in college for 4 years. But when he went from college to the Ontario Hockey League, the rules of the Ontario Hockey League in terms of the 2-year, or you go back in the draft, or 2-year, or you become a free agent, they applied. So they had to sign him. Otherwise, they would have, in 2 years, they would have lost him. So
the problem with the rules right now are, and this is where the lawsuit kind of lays, is so Tom Willander played overseas and then went to BU. No problem.
Right.
Why? Why is it no problem for him and a problem for guys from the CHL? So that's the basis of the lawsuit, things like that.
Yeah, there's no consistency in terms of eligibility. So, yeah. Okay, let's start. Let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024.
I'm Russ Cohen from sportsology.com and NHLDraftBuzz.com.
Spit it out. And I'm Michael Luttrell, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we'll start with the ongoing saga between the Edmonton Oilers and St. Louis Blues. And yesterday and today, 2 other teams got drawn into it because the Oilers are making moves. We don't know exactly when, we know the deadline is tomorrow, because the St. Louis Blues tweeted out, oh, by the way, you've got a day left on their Twitter. I mean, like an absolute troll job. So, but
it's like a loan shark.
Yes. As it stands right now, the Blues have 2 offer sheets with a day left. Philip Broberg at around $4.9 million and Dylan Holloway at $2.2 something million. The compensation would be a 2nd and a 3rd round pick for both of them. The Oilers have another day to make their decision. In the interim, they made 2 trades. One, they acquired Vasily Podkolzin from the Vancouver Canucks for a draft pick, a 4th round draft pick in 2025. And the other move that they made was trading Cody Ceci and his $3.25 million salary, along with a 2025 3rd round pick for Ty Emberson. Emberson, let's talk about Emberson, because he's a former Ranger draft pick, correct?
Yeah, from the NTDP, but there's no offense in his game. He's strictly a defensive puck moving guy. I mean, here's the way I evaluate this. I mean, people know I would not have kept Broberg because I don't think he's worth even close to that money. So I would have just let him go. Mm-hmm. I don't like Cody Ceci, but you ought to get somebody better than Ty Emberson to replace him and his minutes, because he plays a ton of minutes. And they're on different levels. Even though we may not like Ceci, he's better defenseman than Emberson. So this is just bad plugging by Stan Bowman. And really, I would have just taken the picks for Broberg, because I don't think you're going to want to live with that contract. So, but I understand they would have been in a spot and they wouldn't have had a defenseman, so they decided to do that. Now, the weird part is with Holloway, I would keep him, and maybe they will keep him. But if they don't, then I think that's a mistake. But again, this is the problem when you have changeover so often in an organization like Edmonton, that all of a sudden, some people like some of these players and then others come in and they don't like them. So then they're willing to let him go. I mean, I think Holloway's just coming into his own. So I think if St. Louis got him, that would be a coup, because otherwise I don't think St. Louis did anything but just screw Edmonton, which is fine. If that's what their plan was, they did it. I don't know if that necessarily helps them in the standings, but, who knows if there's some sort of feud behind the scenes. So, that's the way I see it. I don't know if any team has an advantage yet. We'll have to wait till the dust settles. But the only advantage I see so far is to the Sharks. The Sharks are doing a good job here on all fronts. They really are.
Well, okay, they're accumulating draft picks.
Yep.
They got a 1-year rental with CC that they'll probably flip at the deadline. Yeah, so they'll get another draft pick for him, and they needed, they're not up against the cap floor, but that's fine. That's fine. It's a good move for them. It's an understandable move. They're a team that is, going to be near the bottom of the league as they're rebuilding. But adding a veteran and then flipping him, that you're going to end up with 2 draft picks for him. Probably retain 50% of his salary, and there you go.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say about Podkolzin is, while his offense has not come around, he was always known as a very good defensive player.
Right.
And so he has very good defensive instincts.
Right.
And so, like, even if his offense doesn't come around, he's still going to be a useful player, just a bottom six guy. That's all.
Okay, so let's do them one by one here, because here is what if so let's say that they do not match Broberg.
Right.
Here is where Edmonton's defense stands right now. Nurse, Ekholm, Bouchard, that's fine. Brett Kulak, not as okay, 5'6".
Okay.
Yeah, as a 5'6", he's fine, but in his second pairing, no. Josh Brown, Troy Stetcher, and Ty Emberson, and I'm looking at their defensive depth. Like say in the Connor Carrick has played in the NHL.
Yeah.
But really, there's nobody there that's like
not a Stanley Cup defense.
No, their defense. So the indicator here is, and I thought I know you mentioned over the weekend that you thought the way it looked, actually you said before that, you said they should match Holloway and they should let Broberg go.
Yes.
The way it looks right now, if you're interpreting what Stan Bowman has done, he's traded and cleared $3.25 million in CC, and he is traded for $1 million forward for the next 2 years, who's a good third, fourth liner. The way it looks, it's like the exact opposite. They're going to match Broberg and they're going to let Holloway go, which typical of Edmonton to do the absolute wrong thing.
No, and see, and that's emblematic of turnover in management in organizations, because prospects fall through the cracks, and this is what happens. And that's, and it's not the case with Podkolzin. I just think Vancouver feels like they're not waiting for anybody because they're a now team. Okay, that's fine. Edmonton needed a player, so they saw that opportunity and they went and got it. Fine. But with Holloway, like, Holloway's starting to show you, and you're not paying that much for him, and he's a center. So that one.
Yeah, okay. And there was the other thing. Mark in the chat said Kane is out for the year. That's not what they're saying.
Not guaranteed yet.
That's not what they're saying. They're saying it's a hip surgery,
right?
And it might be 3 months. It could be 6 months. But even if it's 6 months, if he has it right now, that means he's back in March.
Right, and you have to account for that on the cap at some point.
Right. So like I heard. Some theories that, what they're going to do is, if they match both of them, or if they match Broberg, now that they've cleared a certain amount, they put Kane on LTIR.
Mm-hmm.
They call up Matthew Savoy
mm-hmm.
with an entry level contract. That there was a certain that with all this chicanery, they would still be $1 million or $2 million over the cap. And I'm like, okay, great. You mean you're putting a roster together that you can piece together, but this is a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl that's supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender that got to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final.
With Stan Bowman is all he does is patch up what's leaking, and that's what he's doing here. He's just patching it up.
He did that for 12 years in Chicago because he had Kane and Taves and Keith to build around. But at a certain point, the dike leaked too much, and the city got flooded. So
yeah, it's just look, it's not great. And will it help St. Louis if they got both? Yeah, it'll help them, but I don't know if it's going to put them over the top so that all of a sudden they get to the conference finals. I doubt that. So whatever.
Now, just Vancouver, because I was like, okay, they just traded Podkolzin for a draft pick. I mean, I'm looking. Okay, they added Jake DeBrusk.
Right.
They have Connor Garland, and they kept Dakota Joshua. Do they have enough for a bottom six? They have Heinen, Bluger, Suter, Höglander, Sprong. Yeah, I mean, I can see why. I could see why they did it. They cleared $1 million and they got a draft pick. So
but you're banking on Sprong now getting having the same kind of year with not much time on the ice, which is hard to replicate.
He's done it twice.
But Hoaglander is a guy that
Hoaglander
has not been utilized well enough, so he would get more ice time, and that's good. So I think there's a plus there, but hey, that's fine. Maybe they could be just doing the best thing for Podkolzin and realizing he's not doing it here. Let's give him another chance. And if that's the case, good for them.
I mean, are they saying that, they think that Lekkerimäki is ready, or Atu Ratu, or
they're not saying that at all.
Okay. I mean, that you could interpret it as they think that somebody is ready to take the jump.
I mean, they'll open up camp and hope that, but I don't think they're interpreting that. Lekkerimäki has to really round out his game. I don't think he's going to come in that quick.
Right. Okay. So we will see what happens with that situation. The deadline is tomorrow. Okay. I'll make my guess. I think they're going to do the stupid thing. I think they're going to match Broberg and let Holloway go.
That's what I think too.
That's bad. Okay. The other bit of news, and it's okay, this is not any kind of great revelation, but I will give him credit because he broke the story about the message that Yaroslav Askarov, and that was Kevin Weeks of ESPN, who reported that today that Askarov has told the Nashville Predators that he will not report to camp. He will not report to AHL Milwaukee. Now, that he didn't say he wouldn't report to camp, but he said he would not report to AHL Milwaukee. So that means if he reports to camp and they try to send him down, that he won't report. So maybe he says, I'll go to camp, I'll compete for the job. But as I spelled out a couple days ago on one of the blogs I've been writing, as soon as they signed Scott Wedgwood, the writing was on the wall. Scott Wedgwood is not going down to Milwaukee. They signed, and I tweeted this out this morning, Russ. I said, okay, this situation shows the immaturity of Barry Trotz as a general manager, because any general manager worth their salt, and I'm not trying to insult him, I'm just saying that this is the way.
No, I mean, you're just analyzing it.
Right. This is the way it should have played out. If you had internally said, we're going to sign Saros, then you needed to talk to teams out there and say, what will you give me for Askarov if I'm shopping him? And then as soon as you signed Saros to the 8-year deal, you needed to move Askarov, because this was not a surprise to Barry Trotz. He knew very well. And there was one of the Nashville beat reporters said that he knew that this would be the reaction. So, okay, if you knew this was going to be the reaction, then you needed to be proactive here, because now you've signed Saros, you've signed Wedgwood, you've got your NHL pairing. You're not going to get Askarov to go down to Milwaukee. You're either going to carry 3 goalies, which I don't think is a realistic situation, or he's going to hold out, or you're going to get pennies on the dollar in a trade. This was handled badly.
It was. I mean, Danby, I have to disagree in the sense that, sure, we're not saying Barry Trotz is foolish. What we're saying is he should have had a deal in place as he was offering the deal to Saros, and when Saros accepted, then make the other call and say, okay, you get Askarov. Because now the value went down. There's just no way around that. It would have been higher value if there was still a chance that Askarov could be a backup with the NHL. But again, Barry Trotz made the mistake of bringing in Wedgwood before squaring any of this away. Right. So we could all see what was happening here, and this is what Russian players do because they have options. So Barry Trotz could put his feet in firmly on the ground and say, go ahead, don't show up. And that's fine. And maybe he doesn't show up for the year. But that's not going to benefit anybody, but he might do that, or they're going to trade him and not get as much as they could have. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were batting around last week, whether I think it was like LA offering Kaliev and a number 1.
Right.
and you thought that offer wasn't good enough.
Yeah, well, now it will be.
Now it will be, because I don't think that he can go out and, I mean, he's under the gun right now, and that's the situation. And he can say till the cows come home, oh, we're not feeling any pressure. Bullshit. Because now the guy says, I'm not going to report. I'm not going to play in Milwaukee. You're not going to send Wedgwood down to the minors because he had to clear waivers and somebody would claim him.
Right.
Maybe you keep 3 goalies because he's an entry level $925,000, so you could bury him. But what does that do in terms of the team dynamic? I saw in Buffalo for most of the year, and luckily they all got along, but everybody knew that Eric Comrie was never going to play. It was going to be Luukkonen or Levi. And at the beginning of the year, it was Levi. But it was not a true 3 goalie situation where all 3 are going to play. If Askarov is on the roster, he's going to expect to play, because this is affecting his long-term value.
In essence, it's not so much that Barry Trotz chose Saros over Askarov. He chose Wedgwood over him.
Right.
Wedgwood is the immediate block. Askarov was never getting the starting job for a while.
Well,
Wedgwood is the immediate block where it's like, okay, you brought this guy in, now I can't even be your backup.
I saw some report that said that, Askarov and Trotz, the communication was not good, and that's one of the reasons why he decided to go with Saros. And okay, fine, and that's fine, all fine and good, fine. That if you don't like the way you communicate with somebody and you don't want him, you don't see him as part of the long-term future of the team, that's fine. But he's an asset. He's an attractive asset that off the top of my head, I could read off 4 or 5 teams that I think would say, sure, I want him, because they need a future number 1. And I think that right now his value is as a future number 1.
Right. And here's the other thing. So like Michael Cohen says, well, Askarov's unproven. Okay, to some degree he is, but he did play pretty good, a full season in the AHL. Two, that's right, 2. And he's more proven than Fedotov in Philly. Philly, he hasn't done anything.
And he's 5 years, 6 years younger than Fedotov.
Right. But I'm just saying, it's just so, don't tell me he's unproven and he can't be the backup, because the Flyers have a backup that's played 2 NHL games. One starting and one not. So
Joseph Wall has played 37 NHL games in Toronto, and he's going to be the number 1. Probably not like a 55 to 60 game number 1, but he's going to be the number 1. At a certain point, you've got to go with one of these young guys. You got to give them the opportunity. And like I said, as soon as you saw Saros signed, the writing was on the wall. He was C-blocked. There was no way he was ever going to be the starter there.
Yeah.
And Saros is a workhorse.
Yeah, and to answer Dave, the Leafs have already figured out their goalie situation. They're not going to mess with that.
No, they would have to trade Stolarz in the deal, and that's the thing. Nashville is not interested in a goalie.
No,
they might be.
And they don't want to take on salary either, because they don't have any money left.
They might be interested in a prospect goalie that they can put in Milwaukee that's like maybe 20 years old. Somebody who they could develop as part of the deal. But no, they're interested right now. They're probably interested in defense or forward and a draft pick.
Yeah, I can see Carolina getting them. I saw the report. I forget the 2 teams he said they're in the lead for.
Carolina and San Jose.
Yeah, that's right. San Jose was the other. People were like, why San Jose? Well, San Jose needs a goalie, and he'll be able to start. He'll be able to play 50 games for them. Yeah,
remember, San Jose right now has Mackenzie Blackwood, and who was the other one? Hold on. Another veteran journeyman. Oh, Vitek Vanacek. But both of their contracts are up after this year. They need a future goalie. LA needs a future goalie. Ottawa needs a future goalie. Chicago needs one. Now, Carolina, you could say.
But Ottawa's not going to do it, because they know Askarov's not signing there long term. They know that.
Well, I mean, they would get 4 or 5 years out of him, because he'd be, he had no complaint about him starting there, because he'd be the number 1.
No, but he wouldn't be there long term.
Right, until he could be a free agent.
Until they're out of options.
Unless he wants to go KHL after this year, which is always a viable option.
and then you wasted assets. So that's a risk too.
Utah's another one because they have Ingram and Velmelka.
Yeah,
so,
I think they're going to give Ingram his shot. Velmelka will be the number one, and he'll probably get outplayed because he just hasn't been good lately.
Well, and Timothy and a couple of the Leaf fans in the chat are like the Leafs should trade. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but
it doesn't make sense. Like all of a sudden,
they committed to Wall.
Right.
I mean, Wall's got another year at less than $1 million, and then he's going to be paid. I think it's 3.6 for 3 years. They committed to Wall.
Timothy, sorry. Just to answer Timothy, I mean, look, Askarov has a great ceiling. He didn't have a great year last year, so you can't say he's going to win for the Leafs.
He had the same year that he had the previous year. I looked it up. His save percentage was like .912, .911.
Which is above average in the AHL. It is.
Yeah. So I mean, he had a good year. Now, did he have a great? He played great in the 2 games that he played up in Nashville at the end of the season. But I mean, I think they determined that it was the safer course of action to go with Saros. Now Saros shouldn't play 60 games.
No, as a smaller goalie,
but he has been.
I know, doesn't make sense. They're not going to do it for the next 8 years. If they do,
no,
they're never winning a cup that way.
But it's just I know the other thing I wanted to bring up in our group DMs. We were talking about the Kolosov situation with the Flyers. I mean, okay, they have to tread lightly with maybe not as lightly since they got Mishkov over already, but they do have Russian prospects.
They do,
and I mean, we don't know. And for those not
following, another goalie over there who's their top goalie prospect, honestly.
Right. For those that are not following the situation, Kolosov played last year in Lehigh Valley.
1 game.
1 game.
No, actually, may have been 2 games.
Okay, but he came over, I believe it was at the end of the year because he played for Dynamo Minsk in the KHL. And from the reports, the reason why he is not wanting to come back and play there again is because they essentially left him abandoned in a hotel by himself. He doesn't speak English. He didn't like the situation. And now it seems that even though he's under pro contract in the NHL, he wants to play back at home, and the Flyers don't want him to play at home. So, I mean, where do you think this goes, Russ?
All right. So a couple things here. I mean, there's no question the Flyers are standing on principle. Like, they want the player here. They believe it's best for the player to develop here. I get it. I get all that stuff. But sometimes you don't get what you want. You try sometimes, you can finish the song. But the thing is, sometimes you don't. And so I think they have to abandon that plan. Mm-hmm. And I think the best thing is to continue to loan him. Stay on good terms. Unless you don't want the player anymore. And Dan Milstein's probably already been on the phone with the Flyers saying, listen, just trade him. We'll work out a deal to a club that will give you the pick that you want. And that'll be that. And so that's what they have to decide. But they have to decide it soon.
Trade him for the purpose of trading him to a team that will loan him because he wants to.
That probably will loan him. Yeah. Because that's what the player wants. And in the end, the Russian player gets what he wants. Yeah, he did play 2 games. And they get what they want. Like, that's just the way it is. So if the Flyers stand on ceremony here, there is no court fight that's going to matter. I'm speaking to people that, have good understanding of the KHL, and they're like, most likely Dynamo's not going to care, and he's just going to be their starting goalie. Mm-hmm. And then what are you going to do? You're going to jump up and down? Are you going to go to Russia and attempt to have a lawsuit? No, nobody does any of these things because it doesn't work. So all you can do is toll the contract, and that's it. But at some point, if Kolosov doesn't get traded, he could just take the tack that I'm just not going to play in the NHL. It's just not going to happen, and that's that. And then you got nothing. So at this point, I think what's going to happen is Milstein is going to engineer a trade. He'll trade his rights to another team. They'll get like, a third or a fourth rounder. Maybe it'll be conditional, and that'll be that. And fans are just going to have to move on and worry about the other guy, worry about getting Zabrigan out in 2 to 3 years when his contract's up. So that's it. Like, there's not much more that's going to happen to this. None of us thought he was coming over for the last 2 months. I had mentioned it on my Locked On Flyers show many times, even just last night, which is today's show. So that's it. He's not coming.
Okay, some questions in the chat.
Before the questions, though, let's talk about Yurem Slafkovsky.
Oh, yeah.
Not being on the the tournament, Olympic tournament for.
Yeah, it's basically the entry level of the Olympic tournament. I mean, like, for example, Italy gets in automatically. Teams that advanced at a certain level are in automatically. I think the at-large bids, I think it's 2 teams that get in. And it's a competition with like Hungary and like Austria, and Slovakia is part of this, which is surprising. Right. But now they have some NHL players, and some NHL players, some AHL players, some KHL players are playing for Slovakia. But 2 names that were surprisingly omitted were Eric Cernak, the defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Juraj Slafkovsky for the Montreal Canadiens. And now the indication was that Cernak is not playing because Tampa Bay did not want him to play. He's in year 2 of an 8-year contract. So I can understand why they would not give approval. Now, I would assume, and I don't know this for a fact, that the Canadiens, who just signed Slafkovsky to an 8-year contract, they don't want him getting hurt in a tournament a week or 2 before training camp. So, I mean, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but that, to me, that would be the reason why he was not included.
Yeah, it looks like on the Hockey News, you're familiar, that's what they wrote, that Montreal kept him out.
Right.
But here's the thing, and this is where I would differ from Montreal. So if he doesn't show, they're not making it to the Olympics. They're going to probably lose the qualifier, and they're not going to be an Olympic team. That is a really steep price to pay, and really not give this kid. Now, granted, he did play in the Olympics, but that was when, Mike and I could have been on an Olympic team without the NHLers. I kid. But the point is, I think that's a tough thing for Montreal to do, because without Cernak and him, they're not beating anybody. And so that's going to be a problem, and they probably won't make the Olympics. And, you might be able to look back and say, this is the reason why. And yes, I understand he's getting paid, and I understand, he's an NHL player. But you know what? Would they keep Cole Caulfield off the U.S. team? No.
Right. But that's, and my thing with the Olympics or the Four Nations face off, it's like, I don't believe in playing an all-star game. So I'm a Neanderthal. But here, just read off some of the names. Goaltenders, Samuel Holovic, who's with the Iowa.
Right.
Fehérváry from the Capitals.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Nemec. Marek Rivik. Let's see here.
Yeah, the Devils letting Nemec go.
Christian Pospisil, Martin Pospisil. Marian Studnik, Adam Sokorov, and Thomas Tatar. So no stars except Nemec is probably the best player.
Yeah, and I haven't heard he's being kept off. So
no, he's not. But again,
Devils didn't say no.
Nemec, right? I told you the motivation here. The motivation was they committed long term to these guys. Cernak has got 7 years left.
I know, but it's a terrible blow to give to a country. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I know, but I think that's the reason why. That's solely the reason why, and it sucks. But I mean,
it does suck. And it looks like, again, per the Hockey News, per translated quotes from Miroslav Satan, that is indeed the reason.
Yeah.
Connor Tomalty, is that his name? He wrote that, so. Whatever. It's a tough one.
Yep. All right. Some quick questions here. This is funny. I'll just, Russ didn't play Stratomatic, so I'll put this on.
I did play Stratomatic. What are you talking about?
I didn't know you played. I thought, okay.
No, but I didn't play hockey. I played college football and baseball, and those were the two.
I never played football. I never played football. I played basketball, Stratomatic basketball once, and it was really weird
but I didn't play hockey. That is true.
Right. I can only tell you, and he's asking, what is the best Stratomatic line of all time? I will tell you what the best Stratomatic line for my team was of all time. And this is when I was a kid. I was in a league, and my number one line was Mark Napier, who played for the Canadians at the time. This was like 1980 or 81, when he had like a very good player, when he had like 30 something goals and he had an unbelievable shot. The center was Tom Lysiak, who played for at that time the Blackhawks.
Played for the Flames too.
Played with the Flames. He was drafted second overall by the Flames, I think in '73. And Mike Bossy. And now, of course, any line that's great with Mike Bossy. But the thing was, Napier had a better shot because he had a better shooting percentage than Bossy. So,
which is dumb. He probably just played fewer games, but he wasn't a better shooter in reality.
No, he just took less shots. He had like
shots,
he had 37 goals, but he had like 100 and something shots.
Right.
So, Bossy had 50 something, but he had like 240 shots. So, of course, I'm probably the only person in Stratomatic that's feeding Mark Napier passes than feeding Bossy. But he had two guys. So that to me, that was my favorite line. Okay, let's see here. Flamester asks, do we think the Leafs hand out any PTOs? Well, okay. I think they might. I think it'll be a forward. I cannot tell you who the person was, but I did see a Leaf reporter say that he had heard something about Dominic Kubalik. And that would make sense because he has scored 30 goals before. He's scored 20 goals before. He's got a lot of skill. But if you're going to bring in Kubalik, he's got to play in your top 9. Otherwise, if he's playing as a depth guy, he's defensively, Russ, he's not very good defensively.
No, he's not. To me, I would do JVR over Kubalik. At least JVR is going to put the puck in on the power play.
Yeah, but JVR is not fast enough, and he play.
He doesn't have to be fast on the power play, Mike.
Right, but they don't need him on the power play. He'll never play on the power play.
Yeah, he played power play too. Don't say that.
Yeah,
power play when he was there.
Right, but the thing is that their power play 1 stays out for 1 minute and 40 seconds.
I know.
Oh yeah, no, this doesn't.
Kubalik's not going to do anything, but I get it. That's fine.
We'll go double barreled Flamester action here. Should the Flyers bite on Askarov?
No, they already. John Tortorella likes Sam Urson. Sam Urson has a contract. He's the starter. Fedotov has a 2-year contract that he hasn't even earned yet, and he's the backup. What exactly are you going to do with Askarov? Because Nashville's not taking a goalie back. They don't want any money. They are at the cap. So how exactly are you going to maneuver this? All of a sudden send Fedotov down to the minors? No, you're not going to do that.
At this point, Nashville wants top prospect and number 1. Right. That's the only thing they can. So what would that be with the? I mean, they're not trading Mishkov, obviously.
No, I mean they're not trading Michkov. They're not trading Luchenko. Again, it just doesn't even make any sense to even talk about it because they don't really have a great way to do this, and Nashville doesn't want any goalies back.
Right. Okay, Dr. Kluche 34. Pittsburgh promotes Jason Spezza, hires Amanda Kessel. Spezza now is an AGM, which he pretty much was anyway. But
now he's in charge of Scranton, which he wasn't.
Right.
And I'm just going to say, for a guy who has never run a minor league team before, this is a Herculean task. Let's see how Scranton does this year.
Yeah.
It's not easy to just all of a sudden say, here, just run this team. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was overshadowed there, but they also hired Amanda Kessel.
Yes.
She's part of management for for Scranton Wilkes-Barre. So that
minor league operations or something. That's good. I mean, that part's fine. We should talk about Patrick Laine because
we will.
Okay.
Let's see here. Any rule changes that are coming stand out that is going to be contentious? I didn't hear anything about.
No, they hear nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, the only thing that's going to be contentious is when they finally come out and say what's going on with the NHL draft. But we have a little time for that.
Well, yeah. The only announcement that was made that might be a little controversial was the announcement that Ryan Getzlaf was hired for the Department of Player Safety. And then the Anaheim Ducks Twitter feed came out and said, suspend Perry.
Yeah.
I thought was hilarious. But
that is funny. I mean, look, guys mean well when they take that job. That job just beats down players. It's a tough job. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Okay, I did not hear the report, but I'll take Vince's word for it. Friedman saying there's traction between Columbus and Montreal on a Laine trade. Okay. Why do I think Josh Anderson would be going back to Columbus?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would make sense. And I think the people there would like him, even though he'll probably play half a season. But, yeah, I mean, it'll have to take a little more than that. But I could see that. The return's not going to be great on Laine here once he said he wasn't going to play, and Waddell basically said that on TSN radio. So, you know, Don Waddell's out there just getting what he can. Like, that's it. He's doing his job.
Well, the money actually breaks down about even because Josh Anderson's $5.5 million for 3 more years. So
yeah, but the Columbus loses here, and I'll tell you why.
Well, let me. So it's $16.5 million total over 3 years. Laine is $8.7 million for 2 more years. So that's $17.4 million. So there's a little bit of a difference, but the money breaks down the same. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is Columbus is not a great team, not a great offensive team yet. Whoever they get will not score what Laine could score. So, like, if Laine comes out and scores 30 goals this year, whoever they get's not scoring 30 goals. Right. So they're going to lose in the end result here. Right. But whatever, they just have to do it.
Any news on Trouba?
No, he's not going anywhere. There's nothing happening with Jacob Trouba. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I like it, the Trouba stuff doesn't make any sense. Did we lose you, Russ?
No, hold on. My computer's.
Just take your video off because you're like. You still there? Okay. Not sure what's going on there. Sorry, folks. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. Everybody, Patrick Laine is a Montreal Canadian. Elliot Friedman just tweeted it out. Now, okay, so we'll just do this. I'll stay on until we get a response. So, this I'll say this. There's one thing about Elliot, and I know I'm not good friends with him, but we know each other. He's a great reporter, a great guy. If he sneaks something out there and says, I'm hearing something, literally 15 minutes later, it's going to happen. He's only saying I'm hearing something when something is going down. So, yeah. We're killing time until Russ gets back here because we'll just extend for a minute here. I'll just put up Dave's question here because it's Leafs. I'll contribute one question. Let's see here. I'm just doing this live here. Acquisition Montreal. Jordan Harris and a 2nd round pick. Wow. Well, okay, Russ. It's the Elliot Friedman rule. When Elliot Friedman says, "I'm hearing something," literally 10 minutes later, it actually happens.
Yeah.
So here's the trade.
Okay.
Laine to the Canadians and a 2026. So Laine and a 2026 second round pick. So they had to give them a draft pick to take all the cap space.
Right.
And they get back Jordan Harris.
All right. I mean, at least they got a useful defenseman. That is one of Kent Hughes' clients, by the way.
Okay.
So I'm sure he was able to call him quickly. But that's fine.
He's got his number in his Rolodex.
He does. I actually think that's okay. Yeah, I think this is about as well as Waddell could do on this trade. So at least they beefed up their defense. Harris has some offense in his game, so I don't mind it. What I was just saying about Trouba is I thought it was dead before my computer just stopped.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it was Iran. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't doubt it. Although they're probably concentrating all their focus on Chicago right now.
Yeah.
Organizing all the protesters for tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this. I don't know if this makes Montreal that much better.
Well, it does on the power play because now, if Cole Caulfield and Suzuki can wake up Laine, that's a hell of a power play, Mike.
Oh yeah, but now you're taking Slavkovsky off the power play, unless you're going to put him in.
That's all right. I mean, Slavkovsky hasn't earned his way onto power play one anyhow, if you really think about it.
Yeah, but he was playing there last year, and he started to really come around. That's the thing. I don't think they really want to sort of blunt the momentum when it comes to Slavkovsky.
I mean, you could start Laine on power play too. Not going to kill him.
Yeah, so $8.7 million. Nothing about salary retention or anything like that. So
this is a good trade. Look, Waddell had to give up a decent pick.
Yeah, no salary retained in the deal. None.
The last thing Montreal needs is another second rounder. They're loaded. I'm pretty sure they have multiple second rounds over the next few years. But they this is one thing where I had hurt. I don't want to say killed them, but I did. I was kind of stern, like in the offseason, saying you needed to do something to improve your team. And they did. They allegedly got a better offensive player who, if he were to play up to his, strengths, could really help him.
Yeah. I'll just finish the show on this because Dave, I put Dave's question up when I was trying to kill time, and then he came back. So he said, Mike, it would be a disaster for the Leafs if Marner walks. I don't think it would be. I'm sure they could reallocate his salary next summer. Okay. Here's the issue. I think it would be a disaster if he walks, but he's going to walk because they're not offering him a contract. At least right now, they're not. I mean, all the indications from last week after the transfer of captaincy from Tavares to Matthews, it was apparently it was bloodless. It was actually something that they consulted with Tavares on. He was full on with it. What
else could he do though, Mike? He can't.
He could say, "I don't want to give up the captaincy."
No, John Tavares is not that guy.
Right. That's what I'm saying, Russ. I'm saying he's a good soldier. He's an adult. He's an adult. He's he was captain of the Leafs for 5 years. He's going into another chapter of his career. The interpretation here is that not part of the deal, but that eventually at some point during this year, Tavares is going to get extended for much less than the $11 million he's making. Say five million.
Right.
Okay. So most of that money is already spent for next year. Right now, Joseph Wall is a $3.6 million increase next year.
They're going to make him an offer, Mike. They will make him an offer. Whether he accepts it or not, it's a whole other story. But they will make him an offer because it will look really bad if they don't make him an offer.
They will make him an offer that he won't take.
Maybe, but they're going to make him an offer.
Yeah, they'll say, Yeah, because knowing his representation, knowing the people who have influence on him, they will be saying you need to get at least $1 more than William Nylander, and the Leafs will not offer that. They won't.
Most likely you're right. I'm not fully there yet, though, to be honest.
All right. We'll end it there. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll talk more about the Laine trade and whatever else comes up. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.